Okay. So let's straight away start the class. So where did we stop last week, Lamai? I think we were doing, what were we doing last week? Where did we stop? Also, some of you have asked for the recording of the seminar. මට ළමයි හෙට දවස් දෙන්න I will send you because the last 3 days my assistant was not working. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday දවස් තුනේම my assistant was not working. ඒකින්ද WhatsApp වල messages ගොඩාක් ඇවිල්ලා and I couldn't check all the messages. So however I thought හෙට මම පුළුවන් තරම් reply කරන්නම් ඕගලන්ට. Rest of it on Monday she will reply. Okay. All right. We stopped at okay, yes. මන්ද recording එක තාම upload කරලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. මම ඒක upload කරලා එවන්න. We stopped from focus point or focal point. Last week whiteboard note එක මම එවුවද group එකේ? One second, let's see. Yeah, no. අපි light start කරලා we have done laws of reflection. We have started just curve mirrors. And අපි concave and convex දෙකේම focal point එක තමයි කතා කරලා තියෙන්නේ. One second. Also, Lamai, a little something. I mean, this is something we will be doing next month. But from April onwards, you're going to have an LMS. Has anybody used an LMS before? In other online classes, have you used an LMS? Anybody? Basically, what happens there is that every week I will not be sending you the Zoom link. Zoom link එක ඔයගලන්ට you have a login. ඒකට ගියාට පස්සේ Zoom link එක එතන automatically එනවා. So you can use that Zoom link and join. Yes. So I know some online classes do this. මොකද නැත්තම් ඇත්තටම communication පැත්තෙන් ටිකක් අමාරුයි, right? And also there are a few things I need to discuss. I think I will discuss it towards the end of the class. Yeah, COVID කාලේ especially, yes, true. And yes, schools වල ගොඩාක් LMS තිබ්බා මං හිතන්නේ. Yeah, very true. Because I remember my sisters were going to school during the COVID period. I was out of school. But anyways, my sisters went to school, so there were this LMS. So අපි හැම LMS එකක් කරන්න හදන්නේ. මොකද එතකොට පොඩක් manage කරන එක ලේසි මීට වඩා, since the number of students are increasing day by day. So there ඔයගලා හැමෝටම login username එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා, password එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා. I will, like, once it's done, I will show you, I will do a demonstration. So you will get a unique username and a password. So every week මම group එකේ දාන්නේ නැහැ link එක. Link එක ඔයගලන් එතනින් තමයි ගන්න. Right? You just log in. It's very easy, right? Google එකට log වුණා. Link එක ගත්තා. ඒ link එක click කරා Zoom එක open වෙනවා. Okay? And also ඔයගලන්ට මොන හරි notes, ඔයගලන්ගේ worksheets ඒ ඔක්කොම ඒකේ තමයි දාන්නේ. ඒ system එක අපි හදන්න decide කරපු එක reason එකක් තමයි, for one thing, of course, it's easy to manage, right? හැමදේම manage කරගන්න ලේසි එහෙම තියෙද්දි. අනිත් main දේ තමයි ඔයගලන්ට ඒ tool එක familiar වෙන එක හොඳයි, because you know you all are still in O levels, but some of you might do A levels, some of you might not do A levels. A levels කරන කට්ටිය හෝ කරන්න නැති කට්ටිය, you will go to university at some point. A levels කරන්න නැති කට්ටිය, you will go to university a bit sooner. Like, and you'll have to do like all the foundation programs and all that. And A levels කරන කට්ටිය, after the A levels period, you will go to university, right? Most of you. So universities වලට ගියාම they completely rely on an LMS, right? It's like a tool that makes it easy. So එතකොට ඔයගලන්ට පොඩි familiarity එකක් එනවා ඒ වගේ tool එකක් කොහොමද use කරන්න කියලා. Of course, it's nothing complicated. You just log in and get the link and you just join to the class. Okay. And I'm very excited to actually introduce it to you, but we are still working on it. Ekai mama ඔයාලට පටන් ගත්ත ගාම එක කිව්වේ because I was so excited to share. I don't know if you're excited to receive the news, but that's how it's going to be. From April onwards, that's how it's going to be. එතර ඔයාලට class fees උත් payments කරන්න ඔයාලට කියන්නේ normal bank transfers කරලා receipt එක එවන්නත් පුළුවන්. එතන අපි දැන්ට හිතන් ඉන්නවා online card details දාලා payments කරන්න පුළුවන් විදිහටත් හදන්න because I think some of you will find that easier. So එක හරිය ගියාම මම ඔයගලන්ට පෙන්නන්නම්. Okay. Hari, I have shared the whiteboard link with you. I have shared the whiteboard also. I hope you can see it. ළමයි whiteboard link එක මම අන්තිමටම link එක දෙන්න. For those of you who cannot see the whiteboard, click on the link that I sent last. Can you all see the whiteboard, all of you? Give me a thumbs up. Lamai, we didn't do waves, no? We jumped to light straight away from mixtures, am I right? Yes or no?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah, no, okay. Just double checking. Waves වල PDF එකක් තියෙනවා මම ඒක එවන්නම්. එතකොට ඒක print out එක අරන් තියාගන්න. It won't come anytime soon. කොහොමද අපි තව weeks දෙකක් විතර යනවා light lesson එක ඉවර කරන්න. I told you it's quite a long lesson. Okay, so the point where we last stopped was the focal point or the focus of both convex mirrors and concave mirrors. 23rd March. Okay. අද අපි කොහොමත් mirrors ඔක්කොම ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් අද අපිට. එතකොට අපිට ඉතුරුනේ lenses. So I feel like 14th අපි ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට light lesson එක and then we will do waves. Waves වලට අපිට PDF එකක් තියෙන හින්දා it doesn't take too long and waves might seem like a long lesson and it might seem like there is a lot, but actually there isn't a lot. And also ඔයගලන්ට waves අපි කරන් යද්දි තේරෙයි අත්‍තරම waves lesson එක අමාරු නෑ. It's just slightly long, but even though it's long, there's nothing much. It's very easy to study that lesson too. Light, on the other hand, requires a bit more discipline and it requires a bit more practice, right? මොකද ගොඩක් ray diagrams එහෙම අඳින්න තියෙනවා. Okay. Can you all put a subtopic concave mirrors? Recently, did you click on the link I sent? May link click කරන්න, then you'll be able to see. And Tinura, which lessons are you getting for the exam? Because I know different schools have different lesson structures. All 4. Light and nether. Risindi, can you log out and try to log in again? Then you might be able to see. Last year third term, didn't you have a last year third term exam? ළමයි කොහොමත් first term එකට grade 10 ඒවා එනවා. That is usually how it is, but I don't know school papers කොහොම වෙයිද කියලා, but that's as far as I know. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් first term syllabus එකේ තියෙනවා first term syllabus එකේ සාමාන්‍ය ඒ කියන්නේ grade 11 first term syllabus includes lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4 and lesson 5. The first 5 lessons are included in the first term. ඒකයි මම lesson 4 එක skip කරලා lesson 5 එකට ආවේ because it's anyways included in the first term. But recently මට ළමයි කීප දෙනෙක් කිව්වා සමහර schools වල first 3 lessons විතරයි term test එකට එන්නේ. Some other schools first 4 lessons and some other schools first 5 lessons because of like their schedule when it comes to the sports meet. Thursday වල තමයි school එකේ second lesson පටන් ගත්තේ. Probably because of the sports meet too, නේද? Sports meet එකට time යනවනේ ගොඩක්. don't worry අපි කරගෙන යමු මේ විදියට. එතකොට කොහොමත් ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් sports meet කාලේ I don't know if it might be over but මේ කාලේ ටිකක් slow ගියාට ඉස්කෝල අන්තිම කාලේ හයිය යනවා because it's more important for them to finish the syllabus. මං හැමෝටම එහෙම නෙවෙයි කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම ගොඩක් ටීචර්ස් සමහර කැපවීමෙන් ඉස්කෝලේ උගන්වනවා but මට personally ආවිල්ලා ළමයි කියපු දේවල් තමයි සමහර schools වල even like very famous schools in Sri Lanka teachers ලා මාරම හයියෙන් යනවා. මම කියන්නේ හැම ස්කූල් වල නෙමෙයි සමහර ස්කූල් වල ටීචර්ස් මාර හොඳට උගන්වනවා කියලා මම දන්නවා. ඉතින් volume fractions mixtures නේ right එහෙනම් that's shape නේ ඒ තන අවුලක් නෑ. Let me write. Can you see this line Risindi? Pink color වලින් ලියපු එක. Let me know. එතකන් so මම කීකී හිටියේ අපි හැමලෙම ඔළුවේ තියාගන්න ඕනේ we have to move at a particular speed but also we have to make sure that අපි කරන ටික තේරුම් ගන්න කරනවා කියලා. මොකද ස්පීඩ් එක විතරක්ම නෙවෙයි වටින්නේ. And we are anyways going to finish the syllabus very soon because I told you we need to do past papers, right? කලින් batch එකට කරා වගේ අපි මාස ගාණක් past papers කරන්න ඕනේ. So we have to leave time for that. So we'll finish it off real soon. But just letting you all know that I have no competition with the schools. Okay, මොකද ඉස්කෝලේ යන්න එක එක speeds වල සහ එක එක lessons වලට term test වලට එක එක lessons එනවා. ඒක හින්දා අපිට ඒකත් එක්ක compare කරන්න බෑ. මොකද දැන් schools හිමින් යන්න පුළුවන් but අන්තිම කාලේ මාර fast යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතර some schools they're not very consistent. So just giving you a heads up. But අපි syllabus එකේ lessons ටික order එකට කරන් යමු. මම light වලට priority එකක් දුන්නේ. මොකද light actually needs that priority. Some schools in the term test they might ask the 5th question. මේක හරියම important lesson එකක්. There's a lot to practice. That's why. Waves එක we have a note. We just have to follow the note. As I said there's nothing much. Okay. ඉතුරු ටික අපි order එකට තමයි යන්නේ. රිසින්දි අය පේන්නේ නැත්තේ. So what I'm typing here, you can't see. Can you see this? Ma click කරපු link එකට click on this link and see. මේ නැති වෙන විදියක් නෑ because මම මේ පැත්තේ ඔක්කොම හදලා තියෙන්නේ. Let me know. Line concave now okay ne? All right, okay, great. Put the topic concave mirrors really fast. Okay. So our primary goal when we take mirrors or lenses or whatever is we are trying to form images, right? We have an object and we need to produce an image. Habai, before we start to learn how to produce an image, we need to see how how the light rays work. The normal plane mirror it's pretty straightforward. Plane mirror මෙහෙම කෙලින් ආවොත් එයා ඒ පාත් එකේම යනවා. Or if they come at an angle like this, they would reflect in such a way that angle of incidence and angle of reflection are equal. That is what we know so far. But now these are not plane mirrors. These are curved mirrors. So we are specifically talking about concave mirrors. So before we learn about how the images are formed, අපි මුලින්ම කොහොමද මේ light rays වැඩ කරන්නේ කියලා දැනගන්න ඕනේ. When we know how light rays work, we can later learn how images are formed. So put a subtopic under this. මේක යටතේ subtopic එකක් දාන්න. Basic reflections. Basic reflections. Basic reflections. Okay. Now when we are drawing the mirror, we want to like cover a larger area, then we will have to draw the mirror very large like this. පොඩ්ඩක් මේක practical නෑනේ ටිකක් අමාරුයි මෙහෙම draw කරන්න. So අපි මෙන්න මෙහෙම draw කරනවා ඒක හින්දා. What we are going to do is I'm going to draw a dashed line. Sorry, one second. I'm going to draw a dashed line like this. May dash line, okay? This dash line represents the mirror. This dash line represents the mirror. And this is the principal axis. This is the principal axis. And now just drawing a dash line doesn't say anything. A dash line, okay. I say this represents the mirror. But just by looking at the dash line, you don't know whether this is a plane mirror or a concave mirror or a convex mirror. So just to show that this is a concave mirror, mama චූටියට මෙතන concave mirror එකක shape එක අඳිනවා. ඒ shape එක අඳින්නේ just to show that this is a concave mirror, but this entire dash line represents the mirror. The mirror, the dash line represents the mirror. This entire line represents the mirror. ඒක මොන mirror එකක්ද කියලා පෙන්නන්න ඕනේ මම චූටියට shape එක අඳිනවා. Right? This is a concave mirror. Now, we learned last week that in a concave mirror, okay, is the focal point in front of the mirror or behind the mirror? In a concave mirror, is the focal point in front of the mirror or behind the mirror? Okay, I got 2 answers. Others? 4 answers. Others? 5 answers. In a concave mirror, yes, focal point is found in front of the mirror. So I will mark here as the focal point. And we know focal point double distance we have center of curvature. And this point where the mirror meets the principal axis, we call it the pole, capital P. P is the pole, right? So first basic reflection එක තමයි මෙන්න මෙහෙම. Let's say a light ray is, you send a light ray along the principal axis. You send a light ray to the mirror along the principal axis, like this. එතකොට this light ray will reflect and go along the same path. This light ray will reflect and go along the same path like this. When you send a light ray along the principal axis, it will reflect along the same path. That is the first basic ray. Is this clear, Lamai? Give me a thumbs up. We have the principal axis. We have a dash line. Dash line can represent කරන්නේ mirror එක. හැබැයි නිකම්ම dash line එකක් තිබ්බහම ඔයාලට දැක්කම තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ, is this a plane mirror or a concave mirror or a convex mirror? ඒකින මොන mirror එකද කියලා පෙන්නන්න මම චූටියට concave mirror එකේ shape එක අඳිනවා. එතකොට මම දන්නවා that means this entire dash line represents the concave mirror කියලා. And then I know for a fact that the focal point and the center of curvature are at the front of the mirror. So එතකොට ඒ දෙන්නවත් ඉස්සරහින් draw කරා. දැන් මගේ first ray එක තමයි principal axis එක through මෙහෙම light ray එකක් ගියොත් එයා mirror එකේ වැදිලා ඒ path එකේම අනිත් පැත්තට එනවා. That is what I drew here. If you don't draw arrowheads, your answer is wrong. Light ray එකක් ඇන්දොත් හැමලේම arrowhead එකක් දාන්න ඕනේ. මේ පැත්තට යන light ray එකට මෙහෙම arrowhead එකක් තියෙනවා. මේ පැත්තට යන light ray එක මෙහෙම arrowhead එකක් තියෙනවා. This is the first light ray. Now let's talk about the second basic ray. And just need to be a bit careful when we are drawing ray diagrams. මම පස්සේ කියන්න ඔයගලන්ට අය කියලා. Okay. Second basic ray is you send a light ray parallel to the principal axis. So principal axis you can see here no. මෙතන principal axis එක පේනවානේ. Principal axis එකට parallelly or light ray එකක් යනවා. So this is the principal axis. You are going to send a light ray parallel. Sorry. You are going to send a light ray parallel to the principal axis like this. When you send a light ray parallel to the principal axis, so it's going to hit here. And I told you the dashed line is the mirror. It represents the mirror. So it's going to hit on the mirror or it's going to strike the mirror here. Then it will reflect. And when it is reflecting, it will reflect through the focal point. See? When you send a parallel light ray, it will hit on the mirror and it will reflect. And when it is reflecting, it will go through the focal point. මම තව parallel ray එකක් පෙන්නනවා. Let's say this one. This is also parallel to the principal axis, right? So when reflecting, it will go through the focal point like this. Is this second ray also clear to you, Lamai? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Then let's move on to the third light ray. Okay. Third one. Third basic reflection. Now here what we did was I sent a parallel light ray and it was reflected through the focal point. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a light ray through the focal point. Focal point through light ray එකක් යවනවා. It hits on the mirror and it will reflect parallel to the principal axis. අරකෙම opposite එකනේ. Here what happened was when you sent a parallel light ray, it was reflected through the focal point. Here, if you send a light ray through the focal point, it was reflected parallelly. Okay? Is this also clear to you, Lamai? That is the third basic ray. හැමෝම කියන්න. If you have questions, please do ask. Fourth basic ray is you're going to send a light. Explain third one. Yes. First, if you look at the second one, if you send a light ray parallel to the principal axis, it hits on the mirror and it will be reflected through the focal point. ඒකෙම opposite එක තමයි third එක. You send the light ray through the focal point. මේ focal light ray එකක් යවනවා. එයා focal point එකක් pass කරගෙන ගිහිලා mirror එකේ වදිනවා. Once it strikes on the mirror, it's reflected no. Here it will reflect parallel to the principal axis. So like this. මම තව එකක් නිකන් ඇන්දුවොත් හිතන්න මෙහෙම light ray එකක් යනවා. Through the focal point, it will hit on the mirror. Sorry, wait. Let's say you're sending a light ray. 1 second. You're sending a light ray through the focal point like this. It will hit on the mirror, and from the point where it hits on the mirror, it will reflect in such a way that it is parallel to the principal axis like this. Is it clear? Okay. Now the fourth one. Fourth, okay, you are going to send a light ray. This light ray, you send it through the center of curvature. or center of curvature through light ray එකක් මෙහෙම යනවා. And at some point it hits on the mirror. No? It hits on the mirror and it will reflect along the same path. එයා ආයෙමත් ඒ path එකේමයි යන්නේ. So like this. So let's say you're sending a light ray through the center of curvature. It goes like this. It hits on the mirror and it will reflect and go along the same path like that. Is it clear to you, ළමයි? Okay. මම තව එකක් ඕනම් පෙන්නන්නම්. තව මෙහෙම light ray එකක් යනවා through the center of curvature like this. Center of curvature through යනවා mirror එකේ වදිනවා ආයේ ඒ path එකේම මේ පැත්තට එනවා. This is another light ray similar to that. That is our fourth basic reflection. Then lastly, fifth basic reflection is something like this. It's pretty basic. මේ fifth එක තමයි ළමයි අපි අඩුවෙන්ම use කරන්නේ. We use this the least. That is, without focal point, without center of curvature, you are just going to send a light ray to the pole. මෙහෙම pole එකට light ray එකක් යවනවා. Yawahama, it will reflect in such a way that now we know the angle here is angle of incidence, which is I. It will reflect in such a way that angle of incidence will be equal to angle of reflection, just like in plane mirrors. It will be reflected in such a way that angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Is this also clear to you, ළමයි? Fifth ray diagram. Okay. So, මම හැම එකම one by one තව එකපාරක් explain කරන්නම්, then I will give you time to write. When you're drawing, මේ dash line එක rule එකක් තියලා අඳින්න ඕනේ, dashed, not a straight line, but කැඩිච්ච එකක් විදියට. Then podiator concave mirror එකක shape එක අඳිනවා. Then principal axis, again you have to keep a ruler and draw a straight line. Focal point එකයි center of curvature එකයි measure කරලා අඳින්න ඕනේ. Let's say you draw this with a 2 centimeter gap here. Then you keep a 2 centimeter gap and draw the center of curvature. Okay, මෙතන තියෙන distance එකයි මේ distance එකයි equal. So අනිත් ඒවාත් එහෙම තමයි draw කරන්නේ. Here you send a light ray along the principal axis. It will be reflected along the same path. Here you send a light ray parallel to the principal axis. When it's reflecting, it is reflected always through the focal point. Here also, if you send a parallel light ray, it will be always reflected through the focal point. Third one, if you send a light ray through the focal point, it will be reflected parallel to the principal axis. Fourth one, if you send a light ray through the center of curvature, it will be reflected along the same path. Fifth one, if you send a light ray to the pole, like that, with a certain angle, it will reflect in such a way that angle of incidence and angle of reflection are equal. These are the basic reflections that you need to know in concave mirrors. Very important. The හැමෝම මට කියන්න, is it clear? I need a thumbs up from all of you if it's clear. If it's not, ask me questions. Give me a thumbs up if it's clear. Okay, Ashwita, Evindi, Mayumdi, Metmi, Metna. Metna, you have a question, okay? Rashmika, Tinura, Yashoda. Which one?
teacher.
Okay. Which one, Tinura?
Teacher, clear.
Okay, Ashwita. Third one, okay. Why? Okay, so another question. Why is a line in 4 reflect along the same path? ඒක මෙතන there is no like කොහොමද ඒක explain කරන්න කියලා නැහැ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් concave mirror එකක එහෙමයි වෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ plane mirror එකක් වගේ නෙවෙයි concave mirror එකක් වැඩ කරන්නේ. Because plane mirror එකක්, if it's something like this, concave mirror is like curved inwards, right? එතකොට අපි දැන් කියන්නේ, so when physicians were discovering මෙහෙම තමයි light වැඩ කරන්න කියලා, first they first discovered the center of curvature. Center of curvature තමයි මුලින්ම discover කරපු එක physicians ලා or mathematicians or whoever. Then they discover focal point එක තියෙන මෙතන. ඊට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ discover කරනවා okay hole එකේ ඉඳන් focal point එක තියෙන distance එකමයි focal point එකේ ඉඳන් center of curvature එකට තියෙන්නේ කියලා. Next step එක තමයි ඒගොල්ලන් mirror එකක් තියාගෙන එක එක තැන් වලින් rays යව බලනවා. So the best way that දැන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි labs වල එහෙම practice කරන්නේ we use a laser beam අර laser pointers එහෙම තියෙන්නේ. ඒ වගේ එකක් අපි use කරන්නේ. So focal point එක through යවලා බලනවා, parallel යවලා බලනවා, center of curvature through යවලා බලනවා. So එහෙම තමයි මේ ඔක්කොම discover කරගන්නේ. So when you send a light ray through the center of curvature, observation එකක් විදියට එනවා. එයා ආයෙමත් ඒ path එකේම අනිත් පැත්තට එනවා කියලා. ඒක වෙන්න reason එක තමයි ඔගන්ට I mean මේක කැමති නම් විතරක් අහගන්න, කැමති නම් විතරක් ඔළුවට දාගන්න. This might be a bit too complicated, but I mean for it's a curiosity related question, right? So I like it when you ask question like that. ඒ කියන්නේ curious වෙලා ඇත්තටම ළමයිට curiosity කියන එක තියෙනවානේ. So අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ හරියන්නේ නැහැ, මේක වැඩක් නැහැ කියලා එහෙම දාන එක it's not a good thing because it's good to be interested and curious and to know why and how things happen, right? සාමාන්‍ය උගන්න මතකයිද if you take a plane mirror? Just tell me if you remember this. Plane mirror එකක when you send a light ray perpendicular to the plane of the mirror, it reflected along the same path, right? මේක මතකයිද? Do you all remember this? Others, give me a thumbs up if you remember this. Plane mirror. Now concave mirror එකක් අපි චූටියට draw කරාට it's actually like this, no? ඒ කියන්නේ concave mirror එකක අපි චුට්ටයි mirror එකේ තියෙන්නේ. But if you actually, I told you, right? Concave mirror is a part of an imaginary sphere. So මෙහෙම තමයි sphere එක තියෙන්නේ. මේකත් මම full එක නෙමෙයි explain කරන්නේ, just a part of it. So this is the imaginary sphere. It's a very ugly sphere, but whatever. This is the concave mirror. And this is the principal axis. මෙතන තමයි center of curvature තියෙන්නේ. ඔගොල්ලන් grade 11 වල maths අන්තිම හරිය වගේ ඉගෙන ගන්නවා that ඔයා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මෙන්න මෙහෙම line එකක් draw කරනවා. For an example, let's say මෙහෙම principal axis එක දිගේ මෙහෙම ray එකක් යවනවා කියලා. The point where it hits the mirror, this is perpendicular. That's why it is reflected along the same path. Center of curvature and මෙතන focal point එක තියෙනවා, doesn't really matter. මෙතන focal point එක, right? ඒක තමයි අපේ first ray diagram එක මෙතන. Basic reflections වල first එක. Because මේක ඇත්තට මෙහෙම A path එකේ මෙන්න මෙතන perpendicular හින්දා. ඒක මම mention කරේ නැහැ because ඒක ලොකුවට mention කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. But it's reflected along the same path because it's perpendicular. Fourth එකෙත් වෙන්නේ එහෙම දෙයක් තමයි. මෙතන when you send a light ray through the center of curvature like this, it's going to hit the mirror at some point, right? The point where it hits the mirror, that hits the mirror perpendicularly. ඒකයි ඇත්තටම ඒ path එකේම අනිත් පැත්තට එන්නේ. Okay? Because සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි grade 11 maths වල අන්තිම හරිය ඉගෙන ගන්නවා something called tangents. ඒකේ කියනවා මෙහෙම center එකේ ඉඳන් ඔයා line එකක් draw කරාම circle එකේ මොකක් හරි point එකකට it's perpendicular. It's a bit more complicated. There's much more to learn about that. But something like that, ඒ කියන්නේ center of curvature through ray එකක් යවුවාම the point where it hits on the mirror, that is actually perpendicular, just like in plane mirror. That's why it's going along the same path. Something similar to that. Did you get an idea, Metna? Okay. The හැමලේම ඕනිම mirror එකක, whether it's a plane mirror, a concave mirror or a convex mirror, එයා ගිහිල්ලා mirror එකේ වදින perpendicular angle එකකින් නම් එයා ඒ path එකේම අනිත් පැත්තට එනවා. That's like a general rule. But O levels වල එක ලොකුවට ඔයගලන්ට focus කරන්න නැහැ. Okay? And I got another question. Where is it? Yes. Can you explain the third one more? Third one or everything? Let me know. මම එතකන් third එක explain. Only the third one. Okay. මෙතන වෙන්නේ just like now. These are just different angles. අපි එක එක විදිහට යවලා බලනවා. මේවා අපිට ඕන විදිහට කරන්න පුළුවන්. මම මේ පාර යවන්නේ focal. I'm sending a light ray so that it will go through the focal point. mirror එකකට focal point එකක් තියෙනවානේ. focal point එක through යන විදිහට මම light ray එක යවනවා. Because when I'm sending a light ray, I can manipulate, right? මම යවනකොට මට ඕන විදිහට light ray එක යවන්න පුළුවන්. These are things that we are doing. So මම මෙන්න මෙම focal point එක through light ray එකක් යවුවාම මට පේනවා it hits on the mirror here and it will be reflected parallel to the principal axis. මෙයානේ principal axis එකට එයාට parallel තමයි එයා reflect වෙන්නේ. So මේක මම කරන්නේ නැතුව naturally වුණත් මේ විදිහට තමයි වෙන්නේ. But මට observe කරන්න ලේසි වෙන්නේ මම කරන බලනවා. If I want to understand, I have to try it and see. So when I try it and see, මට පේනවා if a light ray is going through the focal point, it is reflected parallelly. Okay, parallel to the principal axis. Is it clear, Tinura? Okay. I hope others also understood. Okay, Lama, you can start drawing. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 reflections. Don't take too long. හැබැයි මම time එකක් දාන්න නැහැ. මොකද you are not very familiar with drawing these. ලස්සනට ඉරවල් ඇඳලා rulers තියලා අඳින්න ඕනේ මේවා නම්. And F and C ගන්න measure කරලා draw කරන්න. Light rays also rulers තියලා අඳින්න. හැම light ray එකකටම arrowhead එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ to show the direction. And last week මට කීප දෙනා එවලා තිබ්බේ radar මේ අපි draw කරපු ටික එවපු අයගෙත් සමහර ඇත්තට මට correct කරන්න බැරි වුණා to be honest with. But I will try to correct as soon as possible. අනිත් අය එවලා තියන්න because light lesson එකේ we have to check the note. Okay, quickly draw.
Kisha, did you say to draw this?
Yes, draw. Draw these. හරියට measure කරලා rulers වලින් අඳින්න. Yes, Miheli. Yeah, I will slide down fifth. I hope others also have finished. Can you see now? Okay. Others, which one are you all drawing now? First two even either. Okay, some of you are done also. I will give others doing and done. Okay. I will give 4 minutes anyways. 3-4 minutes. Okay. Let's see. Rama, have you all finished? I think that would be enough time now. Give me a thumbs up. Miheli done, Metmi done, Chenuli done, Metna done, Mayumdi, Evindi done. Randira, Rashmika, Savinu, Tinura, Yashoda, have you finished? Randira done. Tinura done. Let me know if you need a minute or two. Huh? You have to communicate, otherwise I wouldn't know. Yashoda done. What about Rashmika and Savinu?
Done, teacher.
Okay, Rashmika done. Savinu? Okay, let's move on. Now that we know how reflections work, we are going to draw ray diagrams and see how, when the object is at different locations, how the image is formed. That's what we are going to decide, right? Put a subtopic, image formation, ray diagram, subtopic. Here, number one, the object is between the mirror and the focal point. Object is between the mirror and the focal point. Okay, now stop writing and look at the board. So principal axis, I'm going to extend it backwards a bit like this and pull like a mum peek in a chutra palharakan. So this is my current setup, and metana. Now here we are going to see how image is formed from a certain object, right? So let me position this correctly. It's very important to get the let me erase focal point and center of curvature a little. Focal point here, center of curvature here. Like this. So this is my ray like setup to generate the ray diagram. Now object is between the mirror and the focal point. Now this is where the mirror is and this is the focal point. So the object is between the two. Now object should be here. Usually now object could be anything, but usually we just draw the object like this. We draw an arrowhead upwards and then an arrow like this. So we say this is the head of the object and this is the body of the object. Let's say make a candle like okay, now meya tamai flame meka meya tamai candle ke wax part taka. Something like that, right? So we are using this just to learn. So since this is the object, I mark it as O. Object, I always have to mark it as O. Now in plane, when we were doing plane mirrors also, I told you, if we want to learn how images are formed, we need at least 2 light rays, right? At least 2 light rays only. Now I have learned 5 light rays here. 5 light rays I have learned 5. From these 5, I can select at least 2. So here I'm going to select, actually, like whatever you select, you will be able to generate the image. But here I'm going to select the second one. Second, parallel light ray focal point through reflect, right? So I'm going to send a parallel light ray, and obviously when I'm sending a parallel light ray, it should go through the head of the object. Object head through yonder. So I send a light ray through the head of the object, but I send a parallel light ray. Parallel light ray reflect with the, as we said, it will be reflected through the focal point. So it will be reflected like this. Is this clear? Is this ray clear to all of you? Give me a thumbs up. Others? Okay. Now just one light ray is not enough. I need at least 2 light rays. For the second light ray, again, you can pick anything, but I'm going to pick 4. Center of curvature through yanekena epa. Excuse me. Center of curvature through yanekena e path ekema endu. So I'm going to send a light ray through the center of curvature, and of course it has to go through the head of the object too. Head of the object to the center of curvature through yandone. So when I send a light ray like this, center of curvature through meheme light ray ka, through the head of the object too, that light ray will reflect along the same path. Is that ray also clear to you, Lamai? Okay. Yes, which ray, Mihaly? Both the rays. So second ray that I used was second which is when I send a light ray parallel to the principal axis, it will be reflected through the focal point. And the fourth when I send a light ray through the center of curvature, it will be reflected along the same path. Light ray, that light ray should go through the head of the object. Otherwise, we don't know where image is formed. So it has to go through the head of the object. Is it clear, Mihaly? Sure. Others? Anyway,
Yes, please.
okay. So let's look at the reflected light rays. This is one of the reflected light rays. Reflect which light rays welling ekak make, right? This is one of the reflected light rays. This is the other reflected light ray. Will they meet at the front of the mirror? At the front of the mirror, are they going to meet? What do you think? Others? No. Why? They are going far apart from each other. They are going farther and farther away from each other, right? And then what we have to do is, since we can see that they are never going to meet at the front of the mirror, usually reflect when light rays then meet when image. Now they are not meeting at the front of the mirror, no. So since they are not meeting at the front of the mirror, what we have to do is we are going to extend it backwards. Yes. Mirror back of the mirror it's not a real place, right? We are calling plain mirrors back of the mirror is not a real place. So you cannot draw bold lines or pull on dash lines on the dash lines on the. So me light ray ke gaanata mena vidiyata wa rule එක තියලා පිටිපස්සට reflect කරනවා. I mean extend කරනවා. Like this. When me light ray ke extend කරාම backwards like this. Then I also have to extend this light ray backwards to this is the other reflected light ray. Yeah, but backwards extend karna. So both the reflected light rays are reflect when a light ray ka rule එක තියලා පිටිපස්සට extend කරනවා. When you are extending backwards, because back of the mirror is not a real place, you use dash line, not a bold line. And we can see at the back of the mirror, they are meeting here. And this is where the image is formed. Since the back of the mirror is not a real place, image එකත් මම අඳින්නේ මෙන්න මෙහෙම dash line එකකට. This is the image. Is this clear to you, Lavai? I will explain it one more time. I have an object between the mirror or between the pole and the focal point. මම එක light ray එකක් යවනවා parallelly. And it will be reflected through the focal point. And අනිත් light ray එක මං යනවා through the center of curvature. So of course it has to go through the head of the object and it will be reflected along the same path. Then if I consider the reflected light rays, they are not meeting at the front of the mirror. මේ එන්නේ නැත් වෙනවා. එහෙනම් what we have to do is we have to extend the light rays backwards. So since back of the mirror is not a real place, when you're extending, you have to use dash line. So where they are meeting, you draw the head of the image. And since back of the mirror is not a real place, ඔයා make a dash lines වලින් තමයි object එක හදන්නේ. So yes, image is larger than the object. or concave mirror එකකින් object එකක් බලන්න ගියාම ඔයාලට mirror එක through පේන්නේ large image එකක්. An example for a concave mirror is the dentist mirror. Our dentist use kind of mirror. Have you all been to a dentist? Have you all seen the mirror that they use? Handle something like this. There's a handle like this, and then there's a mirror like this. Have you all seen this mirror, dentist mirror? Let me try.
Yes, teacher.
Yeah. I will also show you a picture. This is the one. This is a concave mirror. Make it balana dentist use karade metan look pen, but when the dentist is using the concave mirror, even the tiny parts, he can see it larger. That's why he's using a concave mirror. And this is how that image is formed. Is this clear to you, Namai? No questions, right? Okay. Then මුලින්ම මේක draw කරද්දී මම පොඩි tips ටිකක් දෙන්න. Right? As I said, principal axis straight line එකක් draw කරනවා using a ruler. Mirror එක draw කරද්දී ඔයා dash line එකකින් draw කරන්නේ and then ඔයා mirror එකේ මෙතන shape එක හඳිනවා as a concave mirror. F and C, so මෙතන ඔයා if you measure a certain distance, a distance එක මෙතන measure කරන්නත් ඕනේ because the distances are equal. And ඔක්කොම lines are rulers තියන අඳින්න ඕනේ, light rays වලට arrowheads දාන්න ඕනේ. Back of the mirror හැම එකක්ම dash lines තමයි use කරන්නේ because back of the mirror is not a real place. And also then මේක draw කරද්දී in some of your ray diagrams the image will be very big. Image එක ගොඩාක් ලොකු වුණාම උඩ ඉඩ නැති වෙනවනේ. So I will give you a few tips. එකක් තමයි දැන් මෙතන let's say you are 2 centimeters ගත්තොත් here also you are using 2 centimeters no 2 centimeters වගේ අවුලක් නැහැ but ගොඩාක් ලොකු distance එකක් ගන්න එපා මෙතනට. Let's say මෙතනට 6 centimeters and මෙතනට 6 centimeters. Altogether that's 12 centimeters, right? Extra ලොකු ඒවා ගන්න එපා. ඔයා මෙතන 2 centimeters ගත්තොත් මෙතන 2 centimeters, that is altogether 4 centimeters shape. Or මෙතන 2.5 altogether 5, that is also shape. අනිත් එක තමයි object එක ගොඩාක් උසට අඳින්න එපා. මොකද එතකොට image එක තවත් ලොකු වෙනවානේ because image is supposed to be larger than the object. Therefore draw the object a little smaller. එතකොට ඔයාට image එක shape එකේ සාමාන්‍ය size එකකේ without getting a huge image. Okay, try drawing this Namai. Make it fast. I hope you wrote this number 1 කියලා මේක ලිව්වා කියලා. So draw this diagram and give me a second. I'll quickly grab some water and come. Let me know when you're done, lamai. Okay, some of you are done, others. Okay. Okay, no worries. I will give you 1 more minute. Ganta may with the end lamai, yeah? I'll give you 1 more minute for those who have not finished yet. Okay, lamai. I think that's enough time. Okay. All right. I was checking if there are any questions. Spoon එක yeah. ඒ කියන්නේ spoon එක ගත්තොතිම හොඳට shine වෙච්ච spoon එකක් නම් it can act as a concave mirror, yes. It's not exactly a mirror, but it shows a reflection. So it can be considered something similar to a concave mirror if the mirror is if the spoon is very polished. But for examples, you can't write the spoon, no? But we can understand about the concave mirror using a spoon. Number 2, object is on the fork. Before that, sorry, don't write. There is a very important thing about this ray diagram. Whenever you draw a ray diagram, there are 2 things that you have to know. එකක් තමයි location of the image. If you look at the location of the image, we can see that here there's nothing much to say about the location except that the image is formed behind the mirror. Right, so we say image is formed behind the mirror. ඊළඟට important දේ තමයි properties of the image. Right, properties of the image කියන්නේ what I mean properties of the image means properties of the image, right? That means මොනවාද මේ image එකේ තියෙන features. First thing is we can see that if this image is produced behind the mirror. Behind the mirror කියන්නේ it's not a real place, right? Since it's not a real place, behind the mirror අපි consider කරනවා, we call it a virtual place. So we call this kind of image virtual image. I remember අපි plane mirrors වලත් කරේ. If the image is formed behind the mirror, it's not a real place. So we call this image virtual image. And also, yes, the image is straight. Upside down කැරකිලා straight විදිහට ඉන්නවා. So we call this image upright. The image is virtual, the image is upright, and also the image is larger than the object. When the image is larger than the object, we say it's magnified. Magnified means larger, right? So these are also very important. Can you all write these 2 points quickly? If you have any questions, you can ask. Quickly. Okay. Then let's move on to the next ray diagram. Right. Object is on the focal point. Number 2, object is on the focal point. Okay. So we have the same setup. We have the mirror, we have the focal point, we have the center of curvature. Now our object is not between the mirror and the focal point, but it is exactly on the focal point like this. So this is our object. I will mark here as O. So we know we need at least 2 light rays to form an image. So මම එක light ray එකක් යවනවා parallel to the principal axis through the head of the object. One second. Parallel to the principal axis through the head of the object like this. And we know when you send a parallel light ray, it will be reflected through the focal point. So it will be reflected through the focal point. Right. Then for the next ray, මම අර කලින් use කරපු එකම ගන්නවා center of curvature through line ray එකක් යවනවා. We know when we are sending a light ray through the center of curvature, it also has to go through the head of the object. So this is how the light ray looks like. So I send a light ray and we know it will go along the same path and travel like this. My light rays දෙක clear ද ළමයි? Give me a thumbs up. I send a parallel light ray, it is reflected through the focal point. I send a light ray through the center of curvature. It will be reflected along the same path. Okay. Now let's see where the image is formed. So our reflected light rays are මේ තමයි එක reflected light ray එකක්, මේ තමයි අනිත් reflected light ray එක. Do you think they meet at the front of the mirror? Do you think they meet at the front of the mirror? Eh?
No, teacher.
No.
They won't meet.
Yes. They will not meet at the front of the mirror. Yes. Why? Because they are parallel. අපි දන්නවා සාමාන්‍ය අපි maths වල ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවා. When you take two parallel lines, they don't meet ever. So they won't meet at the front of the mirror. So I can try to extend this backwards. Do you think they will meet at the back of the mirror? Behind the mirror? Parallel නම් ඉතින් ඉස්සරහා හම්බෙන්නේ නැත්නම් පිටිපස්ස හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? Because they're parallel. So these two reflected light rays are parallel. In maths also we have learned parallel lines, they never meet, right? Samanya maths wala, as a concept we say, since parallel lines they never meet, we say they meet at infinity. Infinity කොහෙද තියෙන කියලා අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. සමහරක් කියනවා it's an imaginary place. Some people say it's a real place. But it's far away, but generally අපි එක hypothetical place එකක්. කවුත් infinity එකට ගිහිල්ලා නැහැ. It's a hypothetical imaginary place. Since parallel lines they never meet, we say they will meet at infinity. Infinity is, as I said, a hypothetical place. In Sinhala, we call it Anantaya. Anantaya means like it goes on and on and on, and there's no ending කියන meaning එක තමයි, right? So since parallel lines, how did the two lines meet at the first example? In the first one, they didn't meet at the front of the mirror, but we were able to extend them backwards, right? Backwards මේ දෙන එකතු වුණානේ. එතන එකතු වෙන තැන තමයි image එක හැදෙන්නේ. But මෙයාගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මේ දෙන්න front of the mirror meet වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ because they're parallel. Back of the mirror meet වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ because that's still parallel. Is it clear? Okay. So now we have to know about location of the image, right? Location of the image. Now we know image is formed at infinity. We don't know where it is, but it is infinity. We say at infinity. කොහෙද කියලා අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. Infinity කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ. මොකද අපි දන්නවා parallel lines දෙකක් කවදා හරි meet වෙන්නේ infinity එකේ. Even though it's not a real place, right? Then properties of the image. So මේ properties ටික ගැන වැඩි හිතන්න එපා. මොකද මේ example එකේ මම මේවා ටික teach කරන්නේ නැහැ. So it's a real image, it's an inverted image, and it's a magnified image. Don't worry about this. How is it real? How is it inverted? ඒවා ගැන හිතන්න එපා because I will explain it in the next example. For now, just write the properties. Properties, we'll talk about it more in the next example. Rest of it you can write. Make it fast. Quickly. ළමයි? Others? Thumbs up chutta and anybody who needs more time? Okay. Number 3 කියලා දාන්න එහෙනම්. Object is between the focal point and center of curvature. Okay. Now again, I'm going to take the same thing. Now the object is between the focal point and center of curvature. So object එක මං අදින්නම් මෙන්න මේ හරි වගේ. So this is where the object is. Okay. So I'm going to use our usual light rays. So first is when I'm sending a parallel light ray. I'm going to send a parallel light ray, and we know when we send a parallel light ray, it will be reflected through the focal point. It will be reflected through the focal point, like that. Is that ray clear to all of you, ළමයි? Okay. Then we need our next ray is, I send a light ray through the center of curvature, right? Then මෙතන චූටි කේස් එකක් තියෙනවා. මෙහෙම center of curvature through light ray එකක් ඇඳහම මේක මෙහෙම ගොඩාක් උඩට යනවා, right? So when you're drawing this light ray, like this ray diagram, leave some space at the top, right? Leave some space at the top, otherwise it will be a bit difficult. So මං චුට්ටක් space වැඩිපුර තිබ්බා. So mirror එකත් වැඩිපුර, no, 1 second. I will have to redraw. Mirror එකත් තව චුට්ටක් මං උඩට ගන්නම් because otherwise there won't be space. ඕගලන්ට space ඉතුරු කරගන්න චූටි දෙයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. You can make the object a bit shorter. Right? You can make the object a bit shorter. That would save a bit more time. Sorry, space at the top. Anyhow, මං ආයිමත් අඳින්න අරක, you are sending a parallel light ray. It will be reflected through the focal point. And then you are sending a light ray through the center of curvature. So center of curvature through and a light ray has to go through the head of the object also, something like this. Let's see. Still not enough space. One second, lamai. What I will do is I will erase this and make my object a bit shorter. I forgot that make object එක චුට්ටක් short අඳින්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඕගලන් අඳිනකොට I will share a few tips. එකක් තමයි object එක ටිකක් short කරන්න. අනිත් එක තමයි object එක චුට්ටක් now it has to be between the focal point and center of curvature but චුට්ටක් focal point එක පැත්තට වැඩිපුර අඳින්න. එතකොට උඩ space එක චුට්ටක් ඉතුරු වෙනවා, right? I mean it's between focal point and center of curvature but චුට්ටක් මේක ලඟ වෙන්න අnder කමක් නැහැනේ. ගොඩාක් මෙහෙම ලං කරලා අඳින්න එපා but a little closer to focal point. Let me make this object a bit shorter. Something like this. Like that. Now let's see again. You send a light ray parallel to the principal axis. And it will be reflected through the focal point. And then again, as I said, you are going to send a light ray through the center of curvature. See, now it's a little better. You send a light ray through the center of curvature like this. Like this. And it will be reflected along the same path. Lama, I'm sorry for the confusion, but is this ray diagrams clear to you? The light rays, is it clear to you? No? You send අතනම කලින් උනේ අර ගොඩාක් උඩට අඳින්න ගියාම චුට්ටක් ඒක අමාරුයි. ඔයගලන්ට writing book එකේ උනා ඒක ටිකක් අමාරුයි. ඒකින්ද මම කිව්වා වගේ object එක චුට්ටක් short කරන්න, draw it a little closer to the focal point and also leave some space at the top. Then you will be okay, right? So you send a parallel light ray, it will be reflected through the focal point. You send a light ray through the center of curvature, it will be reflected along the same path. Okay. Now let's look at our reflected light rays. Make a reflected light ray. Me anith reflected light ray. Are they meeting at the front of the mirror? Yes.
Yes,
Are
teacher.
meeting. Yes, they are meeting at the front of the mirror because you can see that they're gradually getting closer and closer to each other. So අපි මේක චුට්ටක් මෙහෙම extend කරලා බලමු. Ray diagrams අදදී හොඳට page එකේ ඉඩ තියන්න ළමයි. ඒ වෙලාවට විතරක් වැඩියම ලෝභ කමේ අඳින්න බෑ. Like we can't try to save a lot of space. මොකද චුට්ටක් then look at this. ඔයා මේක පොතේ අඳිනකොට ඔයගලන් ගන්න dimensions අනුව ඔයගලන්ට එන විදිය වෙනස් වෙයි but I'm pretty sure you will get quite a large image. So අනිත් එක තමයි මේ F and C අතර distance එක අඩු කරන්න. Now I told you right මෙතන නිකන් 2 centimeters 2 centimeters වගේ දැම්මොත් හොඳයි. ඊට වඩා අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් අඩු කරන්න but අර මෙහෙමයි when you are drawing ray diagrams there should be a balance. හරි නිකන් කූඹිය වගේ චූටියට මන්දොත් again you can't see. But ගොඩාක් ලොකුවට ඇන්දොත් you will struggle because of the space problem. ඒකින්ද balance එකක් ඇතුව draw කරන්න, right? So my principal axis එකක් දැන් දික් කරන්න. So this is where they meet, right? එහෙනම් this is where the head of the image is. Now it's not produced at the back of the mirror, no. Back of the mirror had not, we say it's not a real place, right? But this is formed at the front of the mirror. Front of the mirror is a real place, so this is the image. Is this clear to you, Lama? Ray diagrams ටික clear ද? Others? First draw this. After this, I will explain a little bit about the image and all that. Properties, location, I will explain in a bit, but first draw this. Quickly draw them, right? දැන් ළමයි thumbs up. Others? Others? දැන් හැමලේම හැමෝගෙම නම් කියන්න බෑ, right? When I ask everybody, when I ask, did you all understand? I'm asking everybody. So එතකොට හැමෝම මට එක inform කරන්න ඕනේ. It's just a matter of giving a thumbs up, right? මම unmute කරන්න කියන්නේ නැහැ නේ ඔයගලන්ට. Okay, so where is the image form now? Here, center of curvature වලටත් එහායින් තමයි image එක හැදෙන්නේ. The image is formed beyond the center of curvature. So we write the location of the image as beyond the center of curvature. Okay. And then properties of the image. Now, as I said earlier, in the previous ones, the image was produced at the back of the mirror. See, the image was produced at the back of the mirror. Since the back of the mirror was not a real place, we called it a virtual image. Virtual image එක කොහා සමන mirror එකෙන් මෙහෙම බැලුවම මට image එක පේනවා. Like when I'm standing in front of a mirror, a plain mirror, මට මාව පේනවනේ mirror එකෙන්. That's a virtual image. ඊට පස්සේ dentist concave mirror එකක් use කරද්දී කටේ තියෙනවා වල image එක mirror එකෙන් පේනවා. That's a virtual image. The problem with real images is that image is not from behind the mirror. ළමයි image එක mirror එක පිටිපස්සේ හැදුනොත් විතරයි ඔයාට mirror එක through a image එක පේනවා. So මෙතන through the mirror you cannot see the reflection. Since this image is not from behind the mirror නේ. මේ image එක behind the mirror නෙවෙයි තියෙන්නේ. මේ වගේ image එකට අපි කියනවා real image කියලා. So this kind of image, this kind of an image, you cannot see through the mirror. ඔයා object එක FNC අතර තියලා image එකෙන් මේ mirror එකෙන් බැලුවොත් එimma mirror එකෙන් මුකුත් පේන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙනම් how do you observe this kind of an image? This is a real image. If you cannot see the reflection through the mirror, how do you observe this image? What you can do is you have to use a white color screen. අපි imagine කරොත් එimma අපේ image එක candle එකක් කියලා. Let's say our object is a candle. So the image will also be a candle. But it's a real image, so it's not produced behind the mirror, so you can't see the reflection through the mirror. එතකොට ඔයා වෙනම white color screen එකක් අරගෙන තියලා බලන්න ඕනේ. ඒතර white color screen එකේ ලාවට පේනවා. I mean, of course, mirror එකෙන් බලනවා වගේ you can't see like a crystal clear image. That's not practical. But you can see like a very like a blurry image එකක් එනවා. පොඩි image එක පේනවා like slightly. So may real image එකක් you can never see it through the mirror. You have to use a white color screen or a white like paper or something like that. අන්න එක ඒ වගේ එකකින් බැලුවොත් ඔයාට මේ image එක පේනවා. We call it a real image. Is that clear to you, ළමයි? Others? That's why we call it a real image, right? So let's write properties of image. First one, it's a real image. Real means මම එක brackets එකේ දානවා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේක ලියා ගන්න ළමයි. Location of the image එකක් තියන්න. Real එකට අමතරව you can see that this image is upside down, right? Upside down එකට අපි කියනවා inverted කියලා. And also it's larger than the object, so we also call it magnified. Quickly write this. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one. So third one is what we did so far. Object is between the focal point and center of curvature. Did you write this, Lamai? Did I give you enough time to write? Liwaneda? Had. Let's move on to the fifth one. Sorry, fourth one. Object is on the center of curvature. Okay. Now our object is on the center of curvature. Like this. This is the object. Now, as usual, we have to send a light ray parallel to the principal axis. Like that. And it will be reflected through the focal point. It will be reflected through the focal point. Like this. Then, අපි උඩ examples හැම එකකම we used two light rays. No, one is parallel යන එකේනා focal point එක through reflect වෙනවා. Other one center of curvature through යන එකේනා ඒ path එකේ වෙනවා. Here there's a problem. So parallel යන light ray එක focal point එක through reflect වෙනවා. That is no problem. Center of curvature through යන එකේනේ how do we draw that? Because center of curvature through යන්නත් ඕනේ, it has to go through the head of the object too. Then wouldn't the light ray be something like that? I mean, in the previous ones also, if the light ray is going through the center of curvature, it also has to go through the head of the object, right? But here, if this has to go through the center of curvature and the head of the object both, we'll have to draw a light ray upwards like that. And that will not go to the mirror. So that doesn't work. We're going to tell that doesn't work here. This ray will not work. For this instance only. එහෙනම් අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? අපි ඉගෙන ගත්ත basic reflections වලට යමු බලන්න. We'll have to use a different one. අපි කොහොමත් parallel යන එකේ නා focal point එක through reflect වෙන එක we anyways use. Center of curvature through යන එකේ නා ඒ path එක වෙන එකත් we use it, but it doesn't work for this. මේකට work කරන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද මෙහෙම උඩටනේ යන්න වෙන්නේ. අපි third එක use කරලා බලමුද? Focal point එක through යන එකේ නා parallelly reflect වෙනවා. Shall we use that and see? Focal point එක through යන එකේන focal point එක through. So a light ray that goes through the focal point, it obviously has to go through the head of the object also, right? It has to go through the head of the object also. It will go like this and it will hit on the mirror and focal point එක through යන එකේන parallelly තමයි reflect වෙන්නේ. It will be reflected parallelly. Okay. So the point where the two meet, we are going to draw the image. හරිනම් ළමයි මේ image එක හරියටම මේ object එක තියෙන තැනම අනිත් පැත්තට එන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ චුට්ටක් රේක එහාට මෙහාට කරලා එක කොහොමද ගන්න ඕනේ. So I'm just trying to like change it here and there. චුට්ටක් slightly change කරලා you have to get it. Don't try to change it too much, huh? So this is how the image is supposed to be. So let me explain this one more time. The parallel light ray is reflected through the focal point. That is okay. Then the other light ray we initially used for center of curvature through යන එකේන ඒ path එකෙම එනවා. But it has to go through the head of the object too. So center of curvature through ගිහිල්ලා head of the object යන නම් the light ray would be something like that. Because the object is already on the center of curvature. ඒකින් අපි මේ instance එකට විතරක් we have to use a different light ray. So I'm using light ray number 3 from basic reflections. That is a light ray going through the focal point, which of course passes the head of the object too, will be reflected parallel to the principal axis. So එතකොට අපේ reflected light rays දෙක මොකක්ද? This is one of the reflected light rays. This is the other reflected light ray. And they meet here. The point where they meet, I draw the image like this. O and O කියන object එක, I කියන image එක, you have to mark both. Is this clear to you, Lamai? Others?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Others? Okay, so location of the image. Now you can see image is also formed on the center of curvature. So you can say on the center of curvature. Properties of the image, you can say. Now this image is also formed in front of the mirror. So what a mirror making reflection of a pane, you have to use a white screen. So it's a real image. This is also upside down, just like the previous one. So we say inverted. What about the size of this? As you see it at a glance, what do you see? Equal. Same size as the object. Object එක වගේම එකම size එකට තමයි තියෙන්නේ. So these are the properties. Quickly write Anna. You didn't draw the ray diagram, Nene? So you only wrote 4 objectives on the center of curvature. So draw the ray diagram and write the location and properties quickly. Make it fast.
Okay. Okay, teacher.
Okay. Let's wait till others also finish.